Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for another edition of the Knicks Film School Podcast and the latest in our series for the summer 25 for 25, counting down the top 25 Knicks of the last 25 seasons. And we are now on the inside of the top 20, in the teens, as it were. Starting today with, we've had a lot of beloved Knicks on these episodes so far, even though they are on the lower end of our list. And I'm not sure we've had one who is quite as beloved as today's subject, at least for me. And that is Isaiah Hartenstein, who I am joined today by Andrew Claudio. Again, hello, sir.
Hello, John. This is certainly for you in the beloved department. For who we're talking about today. Not that I didn't love Hartenstein and appreciate Hartenstein, which is going to be the crux of our conversation. But I think we come off of an episode about a more beloved Nick in a certain sense, and one that for me might be a little complicated to talk about. So I'm decided to do it.
I kind of want to go right there. I'll just ask you, why is Isaiah Hartenstein complicated for you to talk about?
Well, for one, he left. Like, as much as I respect the decision and understand the decision, I'd argue had he stayed and done what he did with OKC this year, he's much higher on this list for all of us. And for two, he spent the majority of his time here as a backup. Like, he spent the majority of his first season, the entirety of his first season outside when Mitchell Robinson was hurt, as a backup. And then last year, or the 2 years ago, the Why Not Now season, he wasn't given the starting job until after Mitchell Robinson and Jericho Sims got hurt, and then he left. And as much as I appreciate those 3 months, those 3-4 months after he became the starter, and then they trade for Anunoby, and January was pure bliss, it's almost theoretical what his impact was to me. And for me, while recognizing that his impact when he left changed everything. So it's why I had to make sure he was on my list. But I also want to hear more, someone like you who has a higher adoration for him. Hear you wax poetic about him.
I do wax poetic about him. And, we kind of brought up we brought up the discussion about Isaiah Hartenstein and his impact and what it would be like to have him back. Before I get to my thoughts, though, a quick run down the resume for Mr. Hartenstein, who was drafted 43rd overall, second round pick, obviously, by the Houston Rockets in 2017 out of Germany. Took a little while to find his footing in the league. He bounced around. He was on the Rockets. He was on the Cavs, right? I'm not making that up, am I?
So this is part of the trivia. Can you name the 5 other teams that Isaiah Hartenstein has played for? So you said that obviously the Knicks and Rockets. You just said the Cavs. That's 3.
The Clippers.
That's 4. There's 2 more, and one he's currently playing for.
Oh, the Thunder,
and there's one more.
I'm gonna feel stupid, aren't I?
Baby Jokic.
Oh my God, he wasn't with Denver for very long, though, was he?
30 games he played for the Denver Nuggets. Imagine if you could let the whole conversation around Jokic is plus minus. Imagine if you just took him out and you actually had a center that was serviceable and potentially could play a similar way, not as good, obviously. But if you have Baby Jokic as his backup,
and it's funny because it reminds me of it was a Reddit thread, right? That somebody went and was like, "This guy is Nikola Jokic." I forget at what portion of his career. I think he was with the Clippers, but it was definitely before the Knicks signed him. And look, is he Nikola Jokic? No, he's not Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic is probably going to go down as one of the 10 greatest players ever. But, I'll save it for when we start talking about him in more depth. So we signed with the Knicks in July of 2022. 2 years, $16 million. That we'll come back to that number in a bit. 16th in total win shares during the relevant portion of time that we are talking about. And as will come up a little bit later on our show, finished 3rd in defensive EPM in the 23-24 season. Do you know the 2 players who finished ahead of him? Because I don't.
Yes, Jonathan Isaac and Joel Embiid.
Okay.
Yes. Shout out to the other dorks that know that, like me.
Good job.
That go back to the defensive EPM page a lot from that season, and it's what assigned his value. And I think that also informs, like, when I make these resume things, there's usually things that jump out, and I go to the Wikipedia page to start there. Then I go to Basketball Reference, and I go to some other stats, and usually it's very easy. I mean, I had to go to win shares and defensive EPM. There's no top whatever that he's in for the Knicks unless you go to an advanced stats case, and it's really based off of 1/2 of a season. So that's why it's complicated for me to talk about.
So on the last episode, quickly, I kind of made the case that he's the only Knick that has a career where each season is kind of its own chapter, its own movie, if you will. And they all took on their own unique feel. I think you can make the same case for Hartenstein, except for Hartenstein, I think it's broken down into 4 half seasons. So Act 1, his first half season with the Knicks, and it's a little bit more than a half season. But roughly, let's call it a half a year, in which, and I'm thinking back to the 2 year, $16 million. Most fans were like, what the hell did we spend $60 million on? Because this guy is a bust. As we well know, every year, it doesn't matter how good the Knicks are doing, doesn't matter how good the juju is, there's always somebody that's the punching bag. During the We Here season, the vibes were through the roof. And yet, Elfrid Payton, why are you in my life, right? And for the first half of the 22-23 season, that someone was Isaiah Hartenstein. Seems like a million years ago now, but like, that he was the guy. He's like, oh my God, every time this guy comes in the game, he's killing us. Thank God for Mitchell Robinson. And then the second half of that season, he turned it around. And by the end of his first season in New York, there was at least burbling, my favorite word, burbling wonderings about whether, this Isaiah Hartenstein, he could do some things on the offensive end. I wonder, like, who is the better of the two centers on this team, or who is the more suitable center on this team? Now, obviously, Mitchell Robinson had the series of his life against Cleveland, but then not so much against Miami, which then kind of set the stage for year 3, or year 2 rather, and Act 3, if we're going along with my little thing here. And then over the first half of the 23-24 season, Mitchell Robinson was awesome. But whenever Hartenstein came in, the team had a distinctly different look, in particularly on the offensive end. And then Robinson goes down, and then we get to what you're talking about, which is this stretch where Hartenstein, for me, he's almost like the fourth member of a core 4. Brunson, DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, and Hartenstein. And I guess the reason, like, where my kind of love affair comes from with him is I view, like, look, Brunson was Brunson. He finished 5th in MVP. I don't know if he's ever going to finish higher than 5th in MVP. That may be the peak for Brunson as an MVP candidate. Hopefully it's not the peak for him as a player. So, like, Brunson was Brunson. But in terms of after Brunson, Hartenstein goes right there for me with DiVincenzo and Josh Hart. Yes, and OG Anunoby, although OG Anunoby was obviously missed a large stretch of games too, so that's why he kind of goes into a different category. But that's why I'll always remember those 4 players, the 3 Nova guys and Hartenstein, as leading this, like, ragtag, like, Iversonian-esque attack on offense, with Brunson just doing everything. And on defense, Hartenstein, like, the defensive EPM number is what it is. And it was just, for me, over those 2 years, it was building and building and building and building to the point where it went from, what the hell did we spend $16 million over 2 years on this guy for, to, oh my God, why didn't we give this guy a 3rd year? You'd say, why couldn't we have given this guy more money so we could have, but again, you can't have the conversation about Hartenstein without having the conversation about him leaving because of, I'll say it, an archaic rule in the CBA that was instituted at a time when the entire landscape of the league was completely different. And the reason I did all this research after, like even before Hartenstein left, but when it was clear that he was going to leave, because fans were like, why do they even have this rule? And I went and did the digging. And the short answer is the reasons why they instituted that rule in the freaking 80s, they no longer apply to the league now. And those rules should not be there now. The Knicks should have been able to offer him more money. They couldn't. And now he's an NBA champion, which, I wonder how he feels about it. But look, he got paid and he got a ring.
I think he feels very rich and very happy that he's an NBA champion, John. I know he loved it. I do know he loved it. Yes, and he also, if he wanted to stay that badly,
well,
the Knicks could have gave him a raise and then gave him a 2+1 and then wink, wink, give you. I mean, you could also go behind the scenes. Not to say this happens in NBA circles, but like, hey, like Brunson, take $117 million less. Also, like, we're going to sponsor the Roommates Pod with the $117 million endorsement of this product. Like, I agree with you that him leaving was so impactful that, you knew there wasn't that much value at that position, that you're going to feel this loss and probably have to really go look someplace to find anything close to that value, which is why they had to go get rid of, not get rid of because they got Cat back, but they had to trade another beloved Nick and DiVincenzo and another accomplished Nick and Julius Randle that, to try and match the impact loss or out level off the impact loss of Hartenstein. And they end up getting an all NBA player in Karl-Anthony Towns. For me, is this a good time? We haven't really done this that often. Can we show people where we had Hartenstein ranked on the list? So we're gonna put this on the screen for everybody. I would advise those of you on YouTube to listen. I apologize if this isn't that large, but Hartenstein for you was ranked 20th. I'm not that far behind. I have you ranked, have him ranked 21st, and obviously he finishes 19th. Kris, who had him ranked 14th, will be on the pod later again to talk about his 14th ranking. But as you can see, I had DiVincenzo ahead of Hartenstein. Like, I have him ahead of Hartenstein in that chord 4. And they're both, like, one's a 1-year Nick, one's a 2-year Nick. And I personally think DiVincenzo contributed more than Hartenstein. But you disagree. I guess,
obviously, I disagree. I have Hartenstein ranked higher. Look, on a per minute basis, was DiVincenzo more impactful? Probably. The thing why with Hartenstein and why, if anything, I feel like I had him too low is, and again, maybe this is just frankly giving him too much credit, but when I think about last year, the 24-25 Knicks that did not have Isaiah Hartenstein on it, and I think about how things just were off kilter at times, and those issues followed them into the playoffs, including during roughly 3.5 minute stretch where, I hope we're not talking about it. I don't know if we're going to be doing this in 25 years, but I hope we're not talking about it 25 years from now. Something about Isaiah Hartenstein, I just don't think that stuff happens if he's still on the team. For one, because he was, again, if you believe some metrics, their best defensive player. And two, he was someone that had not a selfish bone. Selfish is the wrong word because it implies other guys are selfish. He didn't care how many shots he took. He never cared how many shots he took. And unlike Josh Hart, who also doesn't care how many shots he takes and just will take the shots if the shots are there and it's like, all right, this is the right play for me to make. Same thing with Hartenstein. It's like, all right, if they're giving me the floater, I'm going to take the floater because I know that's an efficient shot for our team. The difference is that Josh Hart, as I don't tell anybody listening to this podcast, can restrict the impact, the effectiveness of the overall offense. Hartenstein, despite the fact that his range didn't extend past 10 feet, you never felt like he was restricting anything at either end of the floor. And that willingness to be just anything they needed him to be. You need me to go out there and set screen after screen after screen. You need me to be a dribble handoff hub. We're sitting here. We're going to be thinking until the first game and beyond, how is Mike Brown going to utilize Karl-Anthony Towns in this offense, and how much is he going to be able to replicate what Domantas Sabonis did at center for the Kings? Boy, it takes much less imagination to visualize a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein in that role, because we've seen it. So And
to your point, you could scheme all you want on offense and not lose a thing on defense. Like the beautiful offense that you'd have with like the Sabonis offense that was run. You lose something on defense when you have Sabonis.
And just if we're being fair, by the end of the Pacers series in 2024, Indiana was running circles around everybody, including Isaiah Hartenstein.
Yeah.
I don't put that on him. I put that on a team that had reached the end of its rope and was just, they had nothing left to give. And as opposed to a team that was kind of hitting its stride. So I have all the admiration in the world for him. I was so happy for him that he got to be an NBA champion. I do still wonder whether there's a part of him that's like, man, I had it pretty good in New York. You know, I mean, I'm sure Oklahoma City's great. I'm not going to shit on the Midwest, or it's at the Midwest. Sorry. What, the Great Plains? I don't know. What part of the country do you characterize Oklahoma City in?
Over there. The thing we fly over. Yes.
Flyover states. Thank you. Look, I'll always wonder. Quick break to tell you about America's first ever USDA organic THC gummy. You know the words. Shout out to CORNBREAD. Yes, CORNBREAD, the source of your healthy happy hour. It's a natural and healthier way to experience a carefree moment. CORNBREAD's THC gummies offer a balanced sense of happiness and relaxation. Well, how do they achieve that balance? My favorite thing about CORNBREAD is it's just the right amount for me as someone who is not a regular user of these sorts of products, but still wants to get that relaxation without feeling anxious or paranoid like some other cannabis edibles, which is why CORNBREAD's 1-to-1 THC to CBD ratio is perfect for me. They have 10 milligrams of THC per gummy, which is just the right dose, and it gives me everything I need without any of the stuff that I don't want. If you are looking for a healthier way to enjoy a carefree moment, you have to give CORNBREAD Hemp a try. They have created the first ever USDA organic THC gummy that is 100% legal. As a special offer to Knicks Film School listeners, you can get 30% off your first order. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/KFS and use promo code KFS at checkout. Again, that's cornbreadhemp.com/KFS and use code KFS for 30% off your first order. Cheers to a healthier happy hour. Good transition. Lasting memory or image of him as a Knick. I'm wearing the game 2 against Philly shirt, which contains the Hartenstein offensive rebound, but also immediately after that, I just checked the box score or the play-by-play. He's not credited with a block on Maxi in what would have been a game-tying layup, but he impacted the shot. Let's just say that he impacted the shot. I'm not going with either of those. I'm going with a couple of weeks later. And again, I was in the building for both of these, so I'm able to judge. And it's not one moment, but it's a game. And 12 offensive rebounds, 17 total rebounds, 12. Think about that. 12 offensive rebounds in one basketball game against the Indiana Pacers in Game 5 in the most raucous environment I have ever been a part of, sporting event or otherwise. So that's going to be mine for Isaiah.
Shout out to those of you that remember the post game from that night where Benji did the monologue and then I came on. Breaking news: Isaiah Hartenstein just got another offensive rebound. So we're spending too much time podcasting together because I was going to do a similar thing with I was going to do the same thing where I said the offensive rebound to get the pass out to Anunoby and then the pass out to DiVincenzo for the lead. I'm now double checking. That didn't count as a block. I did not realize that the play-by-play people
on Basketball Reference. I checked it right before we came on, just when you were like, "What are you doing?" And I was looking at that. Well,
yeah, you're right. Isaiah Hart. Hold on. Tyrese Maxey missed 2-point shot. No, that missed 2-point shot was because of an Isaiah Hartenstein block. Okay. And I would, that's the sequence. Cause I remember Fred coming on here the next day and telling us the story of how the Knicks, that's a trained thing. That's a coached in thing.
Yes.
That
pick out
when you get the rebound, you're immediately, it's muscle memory. Kick out to the corner. Yep. And so Hartenstein has no idea where he is when he gets the rebound. He's falling and he literally falling. He just knows I have to get it out to the corner, and he hits Anunoby in the chest. So like that was a thing about the 2024 team. And I think, look, lasting memory for Hartenstein honestly isn't even the playoffs. It's January. That the best I thought the Knicks have looked over the past 5 seasons is that 14 game stretch where they went 12-2, 11-1 with that full starting 5, and he was the center for that team. They were like number 1 in every important metric that leads to winning, and I think it was shared as a role player with what DiVincenzo was, what Anunoby was, what Josh Hart was coming off the bench in like the perfect role for Josh Hart. Every lineup that they were throwing out there was gangbusters. Deuce McBride was emerging. Julius Randle looked his best because everybody that he kicked out to could hit a 3. And obviously Brunson looked his best. So January is my lasting memory, and I'll forever hold on to it. And there was one of those aggregation posts during the playoffs from one of those aggregation accounts that was like, construct a starting 5 using just the remaining players left in the playoffs. And this was posted right before the Eastern Conference and Western Conference finals.
I remember.
And I quote tweeted it with the graphic of the Knicks starting 5 from January, because they were all playing prominent roles in the both conference finals between Dante, Brunson, Anunoby, Randle, and Hartenstein. So that's my lasting and honestly best memory of Hartenstein.
And I'm looking at it right now. Hartenstein's averages in January, he missed 2 games there, by the way. He missed the Brooklyn game that they won barely. Not a coincidence. They probably looked their worst during that entire stretch against the Nuggets. And then the Denver game that they blew out the Nuggets without Hartenstein. I remember that one. But that stretch, it was a stretch of for a Hartenstein, 12 games, 7.7 points, 12.8 rebounds, 2.7 assists, 1.6 steals, 1.7 blocks. Like, you want to talk about giving your team everything that they need and nothing that they don't. That was Isaiah during that stretch. Honorable mention, by the way, if we're talking about January, to 1 year prior, when the Hartenstein end of game defensive play on Donovan Mitchell that started the Knicks on their stretch to end that season, and also started Hartenstein towards just playing better basketball. Okay.
So hold on.
Yes.
Just in case someone from Cleveland watches this, do we want to acknowledge what the NBA said a day later in their last 2-minute report?
No. Moving on to biggest regret or something that we wish would have gone differently or better, even if out of their control. I mean, we talked about it already. Is there any other answer other than Hartenstein not leaving?
So is there anyone to blame for that other than the NBA in the 80s?
No.
Okay. Like, the Knicks shouldn't have given him 3 years or added a team option. I'm having the conversation, by the way. I don't blame anybody on the Knicks. I want to have the conversation.
Hartenstein at that point he was backup center. He's still a backup center. Even as a $30 million a year player, he's still a backup center. I don't think, and I think, look, did they try to tack on a 3rd-year team option? Maybe they did. And maybe Hartenstein was like, you know what? I think maybe I could do enough where I'm going to want to go hit the market after a couple of years. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. But no, there's nothing anybody could have done.
And to your point about him being a backup center, the rare thing about what happened with the Knicks his first year that we haven't mentioned yet, he played 82 games. He had not played more than 68 in his career in a season. And that was once. The game logs for Isaiah Hartenstein during the first, I think this is 4 or 5 years of his career, with his first 2 years with Houston, 28 and 23, then 30 with Denver, then 16. No, excuse me. This is all one season because he played half a season with Cleveland, half a season with Denver. So 46 total that season. Then he played 68 with the Clippers, then 82 and 75 with the Knicks. Yeah. So are you giving a third year to a player that hasn't proved that he can play that many games in a season yet, to a position that, look, I think he became super valuable as well, but I mean, we're sitting here like, oh, Ariel Hukporty looks great. You know, like the center position has largely become a replaceable position, even if nobody can really replace what Hartenstein does.
It's funny because like I'm going to say this and it's going to come off like I'm trashing Julius Randle. I'm not. I'm just. It feels that I have to point out that the Knicks had zero qualms, none, about giving Isaiah Hartenstein every dollar they possibly could have to keep him here, which, granted, was only going to be in the high teens. So there was a limit, whereas all indications that we've ever heard or that have ever been reported are that they were set on trading Julius Randle one way or another last summer. One guy was a 2-time All-NBA player, 3-time All-Star. The other guy, again, was a backup center for 100 of his 150 whatever games that he played here. And in the Knicks' estimation, one of those guys they just couldn't afford to lose, and they ended up needing to make a franchise-altering trade because they lost him. And the other guy, they were feeling comfortable enough to be like, all right, we're going to move on. So,
well, yes, it does help that the alternative to losing Hartenstein was nothing, and the alternative to Julius Randle was Karl-Anthony Towns. That's the only caveat. But I guess my follow-up would just be, had they had the Thunder out there being like, we want to Bruce Brown you, we wanted 2+1, give you 87 million, whatever, 80. What was the number?
89, I think. 87 or 80. No, it might have been 87. You might be right.
Give you close to $90 million, right? Had the Knicks not had a cap, do you think they had his bird so they can go over the salary cap with the new CBA restrictions and everything? Do you think the Knicks like match basically, or make it like, what's the contract he gets if the Knicks have no restrictions? I
don't think they would have needed to. I think they probably could have done something like 3 for 72 or 3 for 75, because I think it was Hartenstein. And again, Kris is going to talk about this a little bit later. Hartenstein wanted to stay, and he was willing to take a discount to some extent. But then once Presti went to where he went to, it was, I mean, he just, I said it the day it happened. As a person now with kids, and again, I don't expect Andrew to understand anything of this ilk. I'm never going to let the joke's always going to.
I mean, you created the joke, so you might as well. Yeah.
I can't fault him one iota for doing what he did.
John, we said it on the Hartenstein left live stream. Like, people, if someone comes to either of us tomorrow and they're like, we'll give you that much money to start Nets Film School. Episode 1 starts Monday. Like,
we'll give you a 300 some odd % raise.
Yeah. You want to give me that raise to start Sixers Film School? Joel Embiid is the MVP and should be treated with respect and love. And the league those losers in New York that have never won anything just wish they had a player like Joel Embiid. Point is, like, I understand going to the highest bidder is my entire point here.
No, we get it. We totally get it. Okay.
He can go to hell, by the way, Joel Embiid. Just want that back on the record.
Always on the record. Isaiah Hartenstein, Jesus Christ, the hits just keep on coming. What role would he have on the current team? It's an impossible question to ask, because if he's on the current team, Karl-Anthony Towns is not on the current team. But just to humor the question as it is written, which is, what role would they have on the current team.
I have a hot take.
I mean, I'm looking forward to hearing it. I mean, I think Hartenstein's the starting center next to Karl-Anthony Towns.
Well, yeah. Okay. I think if
this is too hot. If you're going where I think you're going.
Oh, now I need to hear where you think I'm going.
What are you gonna say? Like Towns comes off the bench? What do you say?
No, I don't think Towns is a Knick.
Yeah, of course he's not a Knick.
Right. Okay. My hot take is if Isaiah Hartenstein stays 2 years ago, or I guess a little over a year ago, Giannis is a Knick right now. And he's the starting center next to Giannis because they wouldn't have made the Bridges trade. They would have run it back, and then they would have all these picks still with DiVincenzo, with like the Villanova trio. Mikal Bridges can go pout in Brooklyn. Maybe he's even in Memphis because there was rumors that there was that deal out there if they wanted to, and Brooklyn could go get their pick back in tank and have 7 first-round picks that they're all going to apparently try and play last year. I think the Knicks enter into, or you want to get crazy, John, the Lucas sweepstakes would have been fascinating if the Knicks are out there with the full but that's not full treasure chest. I know that's a different conversation because what Dallas wanted was to just have coffee with Rob Pelinka and get Jedi mind tricked into thinking Luke is bad. But all I'm trying to say is that I don't think the Knicks decide it's now that we have to go get Mikal Bridges if they didn't know at that moment they were going to lose Hartenstein. And then also like 2 months later decide we need to double down in the going all in now because we might lose Randall and we can't we got to go get Cat.
To be clear, unless you're holding out on me, I don't think either of us have heard anything about the impact that Hartenstein leaving had on them trading for Mikal.
Not in like the Knicks knew they had to do something when they lost Hartenstein.
So yeah, I have always been of the belief / understanding that the Bridges trade was maybe not independent completely of Hartenstein leaving, but I am much less convinced than you that they don't trade for Bridges if they're able to keep Hartenstein. My bigger question is what happens with Julius Randle, because I don't think they make the Karl-Anthony Towns trade if Hartenstein stays. And what happens to Julius Randle? I don't know how else. I don't have a next thing to say because I literally have no fucking clue what happened.
Yeah, it was very clear from both what we ended up seeing and just from things we heard from that summer that like Tibbs kind of liked the idea of the wing stop, the fact that like they were hoping to not have to trade Dante, but the final offer that eventually got it done was when Minnesota was like, after 2 months of no, we don't want Mitch,
just
sure, we'll take Dante DiVincenzo, and that made the deal happen. The Randall, you're right. The Randall negotiations and what ended up happening there probably would have been resolved the same way.
I still think that they were intent on trading Randall because I don't think they wanted to enter into the summer of uncertainty about his player option and so on and so forth. So just let's play it out very quickly. It's hard. So your starting lineup at that point, presumably, is Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Isaiah Hartenstein. And then off the bench is whatever they got for Julius Randle, Josh Hart, Deuce McBride. Who am I forgetting?
Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah. Of course, he was hurt for the entirety of this year, but like Mitchell Robinson. And that's your team. That's your basketball team.
They probably, you know what? Playing this out, they probably make the Cat trade anyway.
I don't think they do. I don't think they take on the money.
But like again, the risk of losing Randall for nothing is just not this franchise's MO. And if they're like, fine, we'll just now we have a center. Like Cat can not be a 5 again.
I think they would have sooner traded. I think they would have sooner traded Julius Randle for ostensibly a backup center.
That's when have they ever done that though? Like not tried to get you're gonna trade an all NBA starter for
maybe not
an all NBA
just
starter?
that, but like I don't think the market was there for him, and I think look, maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe they weren't nearly as dead set on moving him as I'm making it out. Maybe I'm wrong.
You could have just played it out, and then the way the Timberwolves did it, they could have they played it out, and for most of the year it was like, oh, he might opt in, because of how bad things are, and they ended up extending him anyway.
I don't know. I we'll see.
He ended up getting the number that Bobby Marks came on here and said he should probably take. So maybe look, there's other. Does Jalen take the discount? Does Mikal end up extending? Does that last year go as frustratingly as it does?
Your Giannis thing. That's a fascinating. Okay, let's move on.
Again, the idea at the end of the 24 season was if they can run it back, I'm okay with it. And that went out the door when Hartenstein suddenly had this gigantic offer, because what came out of the hours after, minutes after the Mikal trade happened, was different reporters saying the Knicks now expect to also lose Isaiah Hartenstein. So I'm wondering if they then get a commitment from him. You know what? I'm going to stay. Like, take the pay cut that you're about to hear he was ready to take. And then they decide, you know what? That Villanova thing would be fun, but we have a team that had like this unreal net rating. Let's see what it looks like over an 82 game sample. And then if it doesn't win a title and Giannis is available, well, we have all these picks and Julius Randle with an opt out. Like, maybe a sign and trade works here, or he opts in and gets traded to a team that's willing to extend him. Maybe, a
lot of what ifs. Ultimately didn't come to pass, which leads us to our lasting legacy of Isaiah Hartenstein with Knicks fans. And for me, it's going to be the post Randle team and the impact he had on that team, and just like always being proud of that group, and having your frustrations at times because they couldn't score the basketball. Here I'll never forget, what was it, the Orlando game right before the All-Star break when like Brunson was out and DiVincenzo was out, and
it was so. Hartenstein was out. Like, everybody but Brunson was out, basically. And
was that it? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
it was on Valentine's Day. I know because I did the post game. And needless to say, it was a quick post game because the Knicks got blown out. Brunson hit every shot in the first half. And then the Magic, Tibbs actually took him out with like 13 minutes left and he never went back in. It's like, oh, this is Valentine's Day, everybody.
They were crawling to the damn finish line. That's it for me. What is it for you?
It's similar to just that season in general. Look, we've talked to so many people over the time doing Knicks Film School and covering this team the last couple of years. There has never been an attachment to a Knicks team that I've seen like the 2024 team, and how people spoke so glowingly about it, and how memorable a team that lost in the second round was to everybody. Getting blown out at home in Game 7, and you're getting a standing ovation. And to your point, he was the anchor to that team. He was the backline of defense that was developing an identity on offense that eventually got him paid $87 million. That 2024 Knicks team made it not as far as the one we just watched, and I still think they're more beloved than the one we just watched.
You think?
It has to be said, because there is a lot. I read the comments. There is a contingent of people that are like, this team didn't make the conference finals, the other one did. What's wrong with you? And I enjoyed the journey of 2024. And to your point about the 4 chapters, Sean, I enjoyed the 4 chapters of Isaiah Hartenstein becoming what he became more than a lot of Knicks that are going to be on this list. He developed into somebody that I felt a significant loss, even though I saw it coming at the end when he went to OKC.
Yeah. Well said. All right. Stay tuned because we got a little bit more for you here. back on the show for the second time in a row is our friend Kris Pursiainen. Joining me now on the Knicks Film School Podcast for a second consecutive episode because we just had to bring him back to speak about another person that his ranking of stood out, albeit for some different reasons than the last person who his ranking of stood out. You heard him on the Emmanuel Quickly episode. Now he is here to talk about Isaiah Hartenstein, Kris Pursiainen. Hello, Kris. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm doing all right. Keeping busy. You know, it's hot out. It's hot out, man.
It is indeed hot.
Was it indeed hot out 4 days ago when we talked about this?
Yeah. I was
Kris, when people hear this, will the Mets be good again?
The Giants and Jets seasons will be set to start just around the corner. Those will last approximately 2.5 weeks, and then it will be basketball season.
So I'm going to start. I'm going to start by saying I can't do the Jets Giants talk. I'm going to start by saying that with the exception of the folks at the very top of this list, who I mean everybody could guess who the top three names are going to be, there was a lot of fluctuation in where the individual votes came in for certain players. One player who had very little fluctuation, I would dare I say less fluctuation than pretty much anyone else below, again, those top names on the list, was Isaiah Hartenstein, where with the exception of one voter, he was not higher than 19th. And he was not higher than 17th. So one person M17, and then a few with 19. But then no one lower than 21. So a really tight range for Isaiah Hartenstein, with the exception of the person I'm looking at right now, and that's Kris, who had Isaiah Hartenstein 14. Before I ask you why you ranked him so high, I will just say that in my heart,
I get it.
Very funny.
Oh, God.
It was not intentional. In my heart, in Steen, I wanted to put Isaiah.
Your heart and where?
Oh, dear God.
Jesus. I can't even. I don't even know what to say to that. I wanted to put him in my top 10 because as I get older, as it becomes more difficult to, like when someone says like, oh, who's your favorite Knick on the team, or who's been your favorite Knick the last 5 years or 10 years or whatever, I find that question harder and harder to answer because of just like the nature of like, I guess what I do here. And it has become more of a, I know it when I see it, or more accurately, I know it when I feel it. And with Isaiah Hartenstein, from January of his first year with the team until the moment he left, that dude was just, he had me. And at the end of the day, I couldn't justify ranking him any higher than I did. And I still had him inside my top 20, but yeah. But you did justify it. So I'll ask you, how did you justify sneaking him into your top 15?
Because it wasn't sneaking, man. It wasn't sneaking. It was just in there for me. I think when you look at some of the factors, and we spoke about this, couple days ago with regard to Quickly, like when you look at the factors of how many games were played, how much did those games matter, what kind of team was it at the time, what role did this player play, playoffs, question mark, playoffs, period. Like I think Hartenstein just cumulatively is a really, really good Knick. Doesn't make him in the top 5 or whatever, right? But it's like I think you nailed it when you said you wanted to put him in your top 10. It's like it's kind of like an airplane pilot. I'll go back to a plane analogy, but this time it's like the pilot's the plane's in like a nosedive, and the captain comes over. Is like, I'd like to thank you all for helping make this a safe flight, but I won't. It's like what. Why not? Why not put him in the top 10? Like you would have liked to, it would feel nice. It would feel good. Just do it. Like, to me, iHeart, all the not sexy stuff is what was sexy. Like, that's the appeal, is the passing from the center position, the rim protection, The fact that Mensa was addicted. Mensa could probably just open Google Chrome and it would be like, resume where you left off, dunksandthrees.com/EPM/Isaiah-Hartenstein/ like Mensa was obsessed because for good reason he was obsessed. The guy, for whatever weight we give defensive EPM, and centers are really the position that you should care about when it comes to defensive EPM. Everyone else.
Put this back on the screen. The graphic we used. He finished third in defensive EPM in 2020.
See, there it is. So
keep going.
Just a very additive player. But unlike Emmanuel Quickly, someone who was additive and also really, really helped the team in the playoffs. He also started for how many months again? Like, until just a couple months ago, Mitchell Robinson's injury woes, which have been a career consistency, didn't matter too much to the Knicks because they got this guy. They had this guy and he could start. And yeah, he started out playing with the team at times looking frozen in pick and roll. I remember Schwinn from the Strickland like really hated him when he started out. And he's like, this guy cannot navigate a single pick and roll. Moving backwards, it looks like he's a tree about to topple over. Like, those were all fair observations. Whenever Isaiah worked through whatever, I forget, like leg injury, whatever it was he had to start that first season with the Knicks, you watched his assist percentage rate go up like 4% every month of the rest of the season. He started out at about 12% when the increase started. By the end of the year, he was at 20 as a center, because what he did for the Knicks offense, what he did for a team who, you know, we can say what we want about the talk about Jalen Brunson. We can talk about the talk about Jalen Brunson, but to sum it up, short, too scorey, not passy enough, this and that. Here's a release valve of a center and pick and roll that's going to make the right read and short roll, that is going to be able to protect the rim, that can move enough to the point where, you know, you're not totally screwed if he's on an island with Scotty Barnes or what, like, you know what I mean? And he just was a winner. He just always helped. There is something to that. Now, playoffs, the Philadelphia 76ers series. I understand that I was there in Philly for game 3 when Joel Embiid literally like noticed that the refs weren't looking and just like punched him in the nuts. Fairs, I guess, but like, you know, not great that series, Hartenstein.
It wasn't great.
I'm not going to chalk it up to the punch. I'm going to say that was a series where his specific attributes were turned against him, where he has physicality, but not the kind of like athleticism and physicality that Mitchell Robinson has that allowed him to literally stonewall Joel Embiid, which at the time was still an achievement.
Precious Achiuwa, you could argue, was better even defensively in that series than Hartenstein. I'm not sure I would make that argument, but one probably.
If you were bored enough, you could argue, especially with OG on the floor, that Precious was undeniable. Yeah.
When they were switching in game 4.
That game 4, fourth quarter is
legendary.
Yeah.
Think about who the Sixers coach was, right? Nick Nurse, the guy who taught those two how to defend like that. So it must have been pretty annoying for him to watch that.
Yeah.
But basically for Hartenstein, the passing is such a huge thing for me because it's so representative of his game. It's like, hey, he helps make other guys better. He helps set teammates up for success. He's great to have in pick and roll. He's great to have in the post. He's got that the left. I'm sorry, wrong hand. He's got the lefty push shot. He's got the, you know, and I think there's something to that because it's not a situation where you're like, oh, here's this big and he can pass and not really dribble, but he's got post moves and short read rolls but he can't defend for anything, right? Like how many times do we get that archetype? I remember Knick fans were like seriously kicking around Nick Richards as a name last year. That's kind of that archetype of player. Isaiah Hartenstein did that. He gave you the fun stuff offensively. But what he really did was match Jalen Brunson perfectly. Jalen Brunson, not a super playmaker, not a true point guard. You know, Pablo Prigioni could set a table better than him. And it's like, okay, he's doing the whole I'm Michael Jordan in the playoffs thing in part because this guy helps him figure that out and helps keep the offense moving. That to me is like the case. It's just winner, winner, winner. Not sexy, but that is what's sexy about him. Is just lunch pail, whatever all those other cliches are. Listen.
I want to pick it up there because I think the Brunson part of it might be the best argument for having Hartenstein as high as you did, because Brunson over the second half of the 2023-24 season and in the playoffs, obviously by necessity, was the highest usage player in basketball. No one ever complained about it. Now, again, everybody realized who was out and that Brunson needed to do this. So that was a big part of the reason why nobody complained. But we're New Yorkers. We're an irrational bunch of idiots. If we don't like something that we're seeing, no matter whether it's necessary or completely unnecessary, we're going to complain about it. Nobody ever complained because it still came off as there is something about this that makes sense. That is right on the basketball court. And I think Isaiah Hartenstein being a pick and roll partner for Jalen Brunson during that stretch, where Mitchell Robinson obviously was out for most of it, was such a big part of it. A big part of why Brunson, and yet you turn to this season and why there were times throughout the year where it's like, some people complained here and there about Brunson and something was like maybe a little off about him. And the partnership with Cat started maybe good, but then went down. And Mitch, it was better, certainly, in the playoffs, especially. Like those guys' numbers were good together, but it wasn't Hartenstein. So I think that's a great. What you laid out is a great argument. The thing that you did say that I'm realizing probably impacted my ranking more than it should have. You mentioned he didn't start, like he came off the bench a lot of games. He came off the bench for exactly 100 of the 157 games he played with the Knicks. And for me, when you combine that with the fact that, again, the first half of his first season in New York, he just was not, and he was injured. Like he didn't complain about it.
It was meh.
Yeah, it was bad. That's maybe putting it kindly, but don't forget, through the end of December, there were people who were like, I can't believe we wasted our salary or our exception money on this guy. Or I know it wasn't exception money, it was salary cap money. So I don't, and then, obviously he was never a usage monster, but he was an assist maven. I don't know, Andrew, like you remember Tyson Chandler very well. As I'm hearing Kris talk about Isaiah, I'm thinking of Tyson and how high, spoiler alert, I have Tyson Chandler very high in my rankings. And I'm asking myself, shit, man, is there really that many spots difference between Chandler and Tyson? Now, Chandler obviously won Defensive Player of the Year. Tyson Chandler was an all-star. I don't know.
Why the answer is yes.
Okay.
Look, I don't disagree with it. The answer is yes, because I don't disagree with Kris's logic here. I actually think the spirit of what top 25 is it's whatever you want it to be. Like, you didn't have Quickly in your top whatever, but you had him at 23 because he could have been higher had he got a better opportunity.
Sure.
And with Hartenstein, the potential of what you saw him on the court over those 57 games after Mitch got hurt, that 23-24 season, like the potential of what we saw. And it's why I think literally everybody had said, had the Knicks just run it back that season, if Hartenstein stays, then the Knicks might be title contenders. Like the January 24 Knicks is a team that a lot of people go to, and they say it's like the best the Knicks have looked during this Rose era, and him being the starting center for that had a lot to do with it. I had him ranked one of the lowest. I had him ranked 21st because of the fact it was a 57 game stretch where like he it wasn't what Jalen Brunson was doing. It wasn't even like what I thought Dante DiVincenzo was doing from three. My case is like the fact that he left. Like, had he stayed, then he's like, we're talking about a top 10 Knick, because he then does the exact same stuff.
Time period.
Right. Like, if he stays, we're probably talking like the Cat trade never happens. I have no idea if they trade for Mikal Bridges. Like, if he stays, then it's different. Outside of that, it's one season where he was largely a backup center, and then another season where he took over for someone. And the impact, as great as it was, I quoted the defensive EPM stat. He wasn't even like, Kris, the argument for RJ was the playoff argument, right? Well, he wasn't even like the best center guarding Embiid. Mitch was in that series. So it's whatever you want it to be. So if he's a top 14 Nick of the last 25 years, that's not an indefensible argument. I just had him a little lower. That's all.
I think like his defense, his rebounding, his passing is greater than DiVincenzo's shooting minus his handle and defense and what like I would definitely say Hartenstein is a better basketball player right now than
you guys are dancing around it. It's a topic that has come up multiple times over the last the first time I remember getting asked it was probably early on last season. I probably got asked the question on a post game even before that. But if you could have one former Knick on the team, on this version of the team, who would you have? And I think to use an Andrew phrase, the Hartenstein of it all is what makes is what makes the conversation interesting. Because I think there is, again, an argument that the Hartenstein should be the answer, and it shouldn't even be a second thought that Hartenstein should be the answer. And then there's another side of the argument where it's like, well, we have Cat and we have Mitch, and so now you're going to get another center. Like, look at all these guys, like what they could do with the ball in their hands. Look at quickly, look at Julius freaking Randle, like DiVincenzo. I don't know, and this is why I think Hartenstein is just such a fascinating player to talk about.
It's why my answer would be Dante. I'm not going to fault anybody if they said I'd rather just keep Hartenstein. Honestly, there's going to be a Karl-Anthony Towns conversation on this list eventually. And there may be a case from some people. I'm not one of them, but they might make it because of what Cat's defense can be. That if you just, again, ran it back with the January 24 Knicks, that you keep Randall, you keep Dante, you keep Hartenstein, you keep that starting five together, and the Knicks are as equally great a contender as they are now. And it's why I echo every single thing you said about Isaiah Hartenstein, both of you. I just had him a little bit lower. That's all.
No,
there's a lot of roads either that weren't taken or that in Hartenstein's case. And I think I have, let's end with this. I think it's impossible to talk about Isaiah Hartenstein and reflect back on your feelings about Isaiah Hartenstein without bringing into the fact that like the Knicks could not keep him. They did not decide to trade him away. They did not decide to let him walk in free agency. Kris has something he wants to say.
If you guys heard the pay cut he was willing to take.
Well, you've shared that with us offline. So
compared to the pay cut that others are getting praised for taking recently, and then look at career earnings of those two guys.
Yeah.
This is a G League Finals MVP who was willing to leave millions of Rio Grande Valley Vipers. You think you thought I wasn't tapped in with the RGV?
No, but more to the point, he had made, I think, what about?
I'm screwing with you.
No, he made what, $20 million total in his career before this most recent contract, or
before tax, maybe, yeah. Before tax is 20, yeah.
Not that that's nothing. Let me be very clear about that.
No, he's fanning his tears with the hundreds, but like
that's a lot of money.
It's a lot less money than others have made, and he was willing to leave millions per year, several millions per year on the table. And OKC was like, wait, actually, low key, guys, are we going to spend this money anywhere else? Can we just? And then he was like, Oklahoma isn't that bad. And like,
it's also closer to where he grew up. And Houston.
Way closer. Other side of the country closer.
Maybe, Kris, this is the best part of your argument. With all due respect to the fact that Sam Presti knew he had a salary slot to spend, and that to him, it didn't really make a difference whether he spent $20 million a year on Hartenstein or $29 million a year on Hartenstein, because again, they kind of know what they're doing down there in OKC. Like, this is a player who another NBA team decided to pay almost $30 million a year to be a guy that they knew going in a part-time starter.
Yeah, might not close. Might not even close in the playoffs.
I mean, how many in the
start for that matter? Yeah.
In the finals, there were games where he played. Did he play any single-digit minute games? Definitely in the teens. I don't know about single-digit.
I was going to say definitely teens once they started with Kaysen, but
so but and then but this is the only appropriate place to end up. Of all the guys that we've talked about on this list so far, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew. Only one guy played a prominent role on an NBA champion. All due respect to Jeremy Lin, who was on an NBA champion, I would not say he was a prominent player on that team.
On an NBA champion, correct? Because Dante did go to a finals with an NBA champion. Nate did go to a finals with the team that lost the championship. But yes, this is the first guy this is the first champion that we get to talk about. First champion that played a prominent role on said championship team.
Which is again what's going to make the cat discussion an interesting one because we'll save that for the cat discussion.
Keep it in the bag.
Keep the cat in the bag. I see what you did there. Look at you. Not your first rodeo.
Oh dear.
Come on, man.
We have to end it. Andrew, anything else before we
Nothing.
Go?
Thank you, Chris.
Chris, thank you. Less words, Chris. I didn't ask you to plug or promote anything on the last show, so I'll ask you if there's anything you want to plug or promote now.
All things NBA from A to Z. It's a podcast presented by Ball is Life. I just did an episode with Eric Ruby of PHNX Sons. Andrew knows him.
Friend of the pod. Yeah.
Debating Brunson and Booker. He was doing off-season content, filling the time, being like, hey, we got to do tier rankings. I think Booker is better than Brunson. I know that might be unpopular right now, but here's why. I saw that tweet of his. I kept all my immature feelings to myself. I reached out to him with some mature ones. We did a podcast about it, hour-long discussion, just talking about mostly the basketball context that those guys have been playing in over the last couple of years. And it's funny, I talked about you guys, afterwards with a couple of friends that I was talking to the episode about. I said, really, we spent most of the episode sizing slices of blame pie. And so that was an interesting discussion, kind of, I think, especially for Knicks fans to see how people from other fan bases, other parts of the country view Jalen Brunson and how they apply logic to their own players the same way that New York fans may apply logic to Brunson that they're not so gracious with to other stars. So I thought it was just a great conversation. I'd recommend it. Brunson versus
I'm going to listen to that. I think more teams around the NBA would take Booker on their roster than Brunson just because of how many star point guards are around the league and all that sort of thing. And Booker's obviously bigger and doesn't present quite the same defensive limitations. If you bring their contracts into play, though, I think it's a different. That makes it
just basketball. We did just basketball because the contract is like Jalen Brunson's making Hartenstein money.
Yeah, so. No, it's basically. All right. I'm gonna listen to that, and I'm happy you told me about it because I didn't know that you did that pod. Thank you for coming on. And
thank you guys.
Thank you for coming on for the quickly one. Everybody go check out Kris's pod.
Feels like last week already.
Thank you, Andrew, for all your yeoman's work behind the scenes, putting this 25 for 25 together. And of course, thank you everybody out there for checking out another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. We will be back with more fun and games before you know it. Peace out.